If you've as much as turned on the television over the last several years, you'll have been told at some point that we're living through the biggest recession in living memory. That's brought to mind a lot of comparisons with the Great Depression of the 1930s. But in making sense of the social fallout, there's some tremendously important differences between then and now. The most important of which is that we're now a far richer society, 470% higher in terms of income now than we were then. You can see that extra affluence everywhere, from the mobile phone in your pocket to aeroplanes in the sky. But there's a catch when we try and make sense of the fallout, which is that extra affluence is very far from equally distributed. And you can see that very clearly in places like this, the Caledonian Road in North London, because over there, on the right side of the tracks, there is indeed a tremendous amount of wealth and opulence. But over here, on the wrong side of the tracks, there's poverty and hardship that stubbornly remains. The biggest recession in living memory? Well, you wouldn't know so here. Whereas since the 1970s, a great deal of society has struggled to eke out an increase in its living standards of 1% a year, at the top end of the scale it's another matter entirely. Disposable incomes have probably gone up fourfold during those few decades. Now, there might not be as much unemployment as there might have been in Britain as a whole, but in the poorer streets there's still a lot of it around, and particularly if we drill down into those subgroups of the population, so for example not just males, not just young males, but young black males, then sometimes you can find that as much as half of the population were unemployed or without work during this recession. And so unemployment's still a very live issue in places like this, the community centre on the Birmingham estate. There are issues too amongst people who do have work of underemployment, people who have insufficient hours. We all probably know about the problem of inadequate pay, but particularly the problem of insecurity, the idea that you don't know how much work you're getting from one day to the next.
Yeah, the cost of living's high. I mean, the money's down, you know what I mean? As you said 5 years ago, it was better, but not anymore.
And you don't see any sign of that picking up?
No, I don't think so, no chance.
And what do you think it's done to the way people work? Because obviously you're all here in work clothes, you're all working, you're not unemployed as a lot of people have been in this recession, but do you think it's changed the way people work?
Well, I'll give you an example. I mean, this job's coming to an end now. We could be out of work next week.
It's that insecure?
Yeah, so it's up and down. So we don't know. We've got a job tomorrow or the next day. We don't know if we're coming or going.
Well, I think what the book really shows is that even in a very rich society, if it's also an unequal society, a recession can still be a very big deal. And there's whole parts of Britain where it's not just that wallets have taken a squeeze, it's also that families are feeling the strain, that community life is withering away, and that mental well-being, mental health, whatever you want to call it, has taken a really serious blow.